Oh, okay. Now, see, the black candle's already lit.
Uh-oh.
Now, can you tell me why?
For unity.
Don't everybody speak at once. The black candle is already lit. Everybody stand. Everybody come to the center and hold hands. We're going to go to the table, you and I. Come to the chair right here. You can use your chair right there. Yeah. The black candle is already lit because it represents what?
Our unity.
Oh gosh, who said that?
She said it first. Right. She said it first. Big credit where credit's due. Right.
What a blessing. Now y'all notice that sister's got on what? What color?
Black.
No, on her head.
White.
The head is important.
White.
Uh-huh. And what color am I in now?
Black.
Black.
What color am I usually in?
White.
White.
Uh-huh. And she said it, right?
Right.
So what can I say?
I say.
It represents our unity. But do we believe our unity? What have you done in the last week that shows our unity? Don't give me a long one, just one word or 2 words. Come on, come
I
on.
held kids in school.
Thank you. You.
You go
Talk
on.
to the brothers in the alley.
Oh, gosh. Yes, ma'am. Uh-oh, look out.
Spend time with family.
Yes.
That family meeting.
Oh, you sure did.
I help my wife at the house.
Uh-oh.
Prayer and meditation.
Uh-oh. Brother Kwame,
Morning libation.
Mm.
Not just to rhyme with you.
you just spoke up.
Thank you.
Woke up this morning.
Uh-oh.
Tutor.
Because it's one of our presiding, sorry. What did you do besides do the camera for us?
Uh-oh.
I know, he's on it. He's thinking about it.
Go to school.
There you go. Thank you. Now, here's the big question. What did we do as a group to show our unity?
Right here, right
Showed
now.
up.
Right here.
Oh! Okay. So, in that respect, since we showed up, and what else did we do to show our unity?
Form the circle.
By the way, what's the unity called?
Umoja.
Umoja.
Moja.
Umoja.
Umoja.
Uh-huh. And out of Umoja comes the others.
The red.
Coochie Chagalia.
And we have Kuji Chagalia.
Self-determination.
So my question to you is, if I only light Umoja, am I lighting also Kuji Chagalia, Ujima, Ujima, Nia, Kuumba, and Imani?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, shoot, boy, I tell you, we need to move on then. Okay. I'm now lighting what?
Ujima.
Ujima. And that's also, according to Brother ha2tim, one of the days of the week.
Yes, sir.
And I'm lighting now what?
Ujima.
Uh-huh. And that's another day of the week.
Word.
Ujima, is Ujima one of the hardest?
Yes, it is.
Is Ujima one of the hardest?
Yep.
Y'all, is Ujima, what is Ujima?
Ujima is cooperative economics.
Is Ujima one of our hardest?
That's the one we struggling with now.
That's the one we're struggling with now. How many of y'all have bought stuff from Mama Alona?
No, I come from a different perspective.
Uh-oh, look out now. There we
I
go.
say Moja is
Huh?
the most difficult.
Uh-oh.
Which
If
one?
you get emoji together,
Uh-oh.
the rest will come out of that.
Well, we already said we had that one together.
That one you let it was Nia.
I think we need to rethink that, but you know.
Okay, well,
We
we'll talk
working
about
on
that
it.
later.
We working on it.
What's
And
over
I'm
here
cool
is
with
what?
that.
Nia.
Yeah.
Moja.
No, that's Kuumba. That's Kuumba.
That's right, 'cause we already did that one. We already did that. And then the one that seems to be misunderstood inside and outside of the African Center community is
Imani.
Imani.
And that's the date. That's the date.
So, and I would agree that we're working on all of them, right?
Oh,
That's it.
oh,
Okay.
constant work in progress.
Okay. So now we have the family is complete. Thank you.
I
I say.
Mama Lona?
If we remain standing on poor libation.
Yes. Oh, you can leave it right there, Mama.
You said what?
Mama Luna's got the big cup,
What do you say?
Cup is
doing
pouring
two
this on
cups?
my
and I got the little cup.
We're doing 2 cups?
Yeah, we're doing 2 cups.
That's a good observation.
We're doing. I thought it would be cool. We do 2 cups. We got the
Okay.
little big cup.
We
Mama Luna,
invite the creative energy, that creative source that we all are a part of.
and we
we'll
say,
Ashe.
Then we ask the ancestors that some names we know, some names we don't know, the very ancient ones that gave us civilization and mathematics and science and philosophy, and like Imhotep and Ptahhotep and Queen,
you
Queen of Shepsut.
Except
And we'll say,
Ashe.
Ashe.
Then there was the Africans that fought and died in Africa. Those Africans that ended up in the Atlantic or the Indian Ocean, who we don't know, we'll call them and say, please join us.
Ashe.
Ashe.
And then the oneness of one is 1 + 1 is 1. And we say what?
Ashe.
We come out of the one and we are one if we understand that. And we say,
Ashe.
our physical form is not the original form. Our spiritual form is the original form. And we say,
Ashe.
and we call that by different names. And those names that we challenge each other with and challenge ourselves with is the name not by which we go by, because we have to speak the language of our original ancestors at some time. Hotep?
Hotep.
Those
Ashe.
are the ancestors of the 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, and 21st century, like Ida B. Wells, and like Boukman, and
Ashe.
like Frederick Douglass,
Ashe.
and
Ashe.
Horace Malik,
Ashe.
Martin Luther King,
Marcus
Ashe.
Garvey.
Lou Hamer.
Ashe.
Please join
Ashe.
us in your spirit.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Are they here?
They're here.
If they're here. All right.
Then there's our family, those whose shoulders we immediately stand on, who walk in front of us, who walk behind us, who walk beside us, so that we're never alone, always pushing us the way we need to go. We can call their names,
Miles Brown. this
like
Robert, Texas.
LJ, like Virginia and Sydney, and Clarence, and Elmer, and Isil, and Felton, and Sammy. And
Ashe.
we'll say Ashe.
Marvin Ellis. Ashe.
Yeah. And as the circle is unbroken, you can bend the circle into different forms. And one of the forms is the affinity form. That what is the beginning is also the end. And we say,
Ashe.
All we do it for the children. Our eternity is our children. Those who've come and left, those who are on the way, and our children who are here. Everything we do is for them.
Ashe.
Ashe.
and we go back to the beginning of the Creator and the 4 directions. We start in the sun in the morning,
East. Ashe.
Ashe.
and we go south,
Ashe.
Ashe.
and then we go north,
Ashe.
and then we go across the pond to join our physical, spiritual form.
That's right.
And that would be
Ashe.
the west.
West.
And we
Ashe.
say,
Ashe.
Ashe, Ashe.
Ashe.
Okay, and we can go back to our seats and.
Oh, wait, give everybody a hug first. Come on, yeah, come on, y'all. Yeah. Come back in here, yeah. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Gotta give Kwame a hug.
Yes, yeah. Okay. Elder Phillips is going to do our evocation.
Okay, I know. Robert got Phillips right away. I like that thing. Oh, okay.
Thank you, brother. Brother Cleve.
The voice calls forth the Great Spirit,
Oh,
the
yeah.
creative spirit of the universe that gives and sustains all existence forever. Let us adore our moon, who though hidden is the source of all life, all power, and all health. Let us hail Ray, the sun, the highest visible manifestation of spirit, that rises on the eastern horizon as Kepra, the self-creating one, who shines down at midday as Ray, the eternally creating one, and who goes down on the western horizon as ha2tim, the complete one. Let us revere Ptah, the nature and form creating one. Let us call Wasir, to whom we give our dead for life everlasting. Let Yehuti, nature of good speech, intelligence, and writing, teach or inform us. Let us worship Nut, the sky, the divine mother, who stretches forth from horizon to horizon, giving birth to all those that comes in existence. Let us obey Ma'at, divine sister, who imbues the universe with order, harmony, balance, truth, justice, righteousness, reciprocity, and love. The voice calls forth the ancestors who abide in spirit and the spirits of our yet unborn children, who will carry forth our seed for eternity. Now let this community unite in the celebration of the African spirit and the rededication of another cycle of Ma'at, right speaking and right doing. Ashe.
Ashe.
Ma'at. Ma'at.
Okay, what's up, everybody? Try to go through some of the announcements that we have, and I'll call for those from the rest of the group that might want to elaborate on something more in more detail. First announcements on page 8. They are Qur'an service will be held next month, February 11th and March 11th, respectively. Second Sunday at 11:30 a.m. here at APDS. Divine Conversation for this month will be January 28th, and next month, February 25th. It's always the fourth Sunday at 10 a.m. How We Ask At Study Group is held every Friday, 6 p.m. here at APDS in this room, to be exact. The Meta Study class is online every Tuesday at 8 p.m. And I think you can contact Elder Lona if you're interested. Tawi Askat Study, Tawi Association for the Study of Classical African Civilization, known as ASCAT, as you saw me trying to fumble with, is seeking members. Join us every Friday, 6 to 8, here at APDS. Elder Mariba Kelsey's new book, So You Want Liberation, can be purchased from Zawadi's Books. I was looking for him for a second. Please sign up for Parent Service Committee. There are music, talent, food, marketing, fundraising, Watoto facilities. Contact Elder Alona. And by all means, you see the note, if you're looking on page 8, see the note, page 10, support our black businesses. Matter of fact, look to our listing first about those businesses that you can support on page 10.
Can we have one of those, please?
I'm sorry, they were out front. We'll get you one.
Okay.
And before I forget, we also want to do some Happy Earth Day celebrations. Okay.
Thank you.
They are. Elder Aziza West was on the 5th. Let's stand and give a welcome for Nation Builder Kwame Kishler tomorrow. Elder Besiegis Ronnie is on the 19th. Sister Pam Swan is on the 23rd. Are there any more that folks want to say? Yes, ma'am.
Mine was on the 2nd.
Second.
2nd of January.
Yes.
All right.
Wait a minute. He said his is the 20.
I'm
His is
sorry.
29.
Vanessa Lynn.
Vanessa Lynn.
Yes, ma'am.
And
William Roberts, the 29th of January.
so we want to give all those present whose birthdays are either today or have passed. Let's give them a rousing applause.
Happy birthday! Happy birthday!
Y'all act like y'all don't know Stevie's song.
Happy birthday.
There we go, yeah. She said the rock too.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay,
Did you ask for any other announcements?
I was getting ready
Oh, okay,
to
go ahead.
say just that. Go right ahead, ma'am. Jump right
Okay,
in.
I have a quick announcement. I won't take long, but
How
you
quick
can,
is it?
very quick.
Okay.
You can ask for, you can see me later for additional things. We talk about ASCAP. That's the Association for the Study of Classical African Civilizations.
Okay.
We're having a fundraiser. That's the national ASCAP. It's having a fundraiser. We need a building. ASCAP's been around since the 80s when Dr. Carruthers and Dr. Karinga and others started ASCAP. And at one of the fundraisers we're doing is we're having an ASCAP dream vacation through RCI. The tickets are $25 or $5 for 100. And the drawing will be at our ASCAP conference in 2019.
What was 100?
5.
Oh, 5 tickets.
2019?
2019.
What's the dream vacation?
It's you can choose any of these places. Myrtle Beach, Phoenix, Cancun, Las Vegas, wherever the RCI go. Yes, Cancun, that kind of thing. So, just if you're interested, just let me know. But I wanted to put that out.
Okay.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Can I ask a question about?
Absolutely.
Do you have an electronic flyer where you post that stuff?
I hope so.
Okay, because I'll share.
What was the question?
Okay, you'll share. Okay, I will. There'll be one.
The young folks
I'll
don't know
get-
about electronic.
I will get it. I will. No, I have heard.
Brother Kwame,
Brother Kwame,
Yes.
I got an announcement.
Yes,
Yes.
Family,
yes.
May 19th,
Uh-oh.
the year 2018,
Uh-huh.
at least according to, whose calendar?
What
Gloria.
about
Yeah,
this?
little Gregor man. But anyway, so yeah, this year, 2018, May 19th, the Malcolm X celebration.
That's right.
And as far as I know, we're going to have it at the Millennium School.
Yeah.
So y'all
Yeah.
hold that day. You hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hold that day.
Saturday.
What date was that?
May
Florida speak the language
19th.
of
Got it.
Cuba.
May 19th. May 19th.
May 19th.
Got it?
All right.
All right, and we are taking donations. Humble, or if you want to be a little showy, do that too. We don't discriminate. I share.
Millennium.
Have an announcement. Well, actually, it's two. February the 18th and 19th, I believe, we have a Simba Circle reunion here in Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, no, you're not.
We had it once before and it was very successful. We're the hub. Believe it or not, most rites of passage programs started right here in Columbus. You know, we have gathered people from all over, but we can't forget who we really are. So I would like for Tommy Village to consider maybe doing a workshop or doing something during that time. I'll give you more information. I'm not sure exactly where it's going to be at yet.
Right.
But we're working on hotels, the convention center, Crawford Convention Center. I think it's the Renaissance, something
Right.
down in there.
Right.
But we also talking about this thing with Black Panther to the theme.
Right.
You know, we're trying to figure out how we can draw more young kids into that. And so we want to make sure that I'll make sure you get the announcement of when that's going to happen. And secondly, anybody, I hate to bring this up, but I really believe that our principles, we need to really practice them, just don't talk them. You know, and I think that we should reflect back on our lives a little bit more and look at what we need, for example. So I'm just saying that your presence would be more than welcome and helpful for what we got to do with our young people today.
Okay.
Just wanted to say that. Thank you. Oh, one other thing. anybody who's had any type, I hate to say the incarceration, let me know. Because there's a new program out there working with for people using cookie chocolate.
Right.
In other words, you're not ex nothing. You're restored.
Amen.
That's
And
right.
if you so please, anybody who's done any time, and even a little felon, we can train them, pay them, and make them do what we call cognitive reconstruction.
That's
Which
right.
is really chocolate.
That's
You
right.
can
Thank
I want to invite everybody out every morning. We do libations. Emoja through Nia. I know it is Monday through Friday, but hopefully everybody speak the language.
Those are push-ups, bro.
I know, I got you. I need to push it up. Emoja through Nia, we meet up at 5:15 in the morning on Facebook. So you know what I'm saying? You can tune in, we pour libations, have some conversations. On those days where I ain't got to rush out, we have conversations. Other than that, on the weekends, you catch me when you can. But the one thing that I'm able to do now is with this new phone app, I'm able to text people when I'm about to start. For those people that are interested, that want to know on the weekends when I'm going to be meeting up. So I don't have to surprise you, because this morning I did 8, and some people ain't used to me till coming on to about 11. I could text everybody when the show is about to start, if that's what you want. But you got to let me know. The number is 614-300-1875. Yep, that's the new number.
Do you still have the other number?
I got it.
Yeah, the other, let me put it this way. The other number is more personal. This one is far as the journey. So, like, for example, for the Daily Toast, what I offer is for you to put your ancestor's name on the list. So you could just call 614-300-1875 and put Daily Toast, #Daily Toast, and put your ancestors on there. Or just put Daily Toast, and it'll send you a form. You can put it on there, and every morning I'll be toasting your ancestors. So, I mean, because one of the things, well, I'm going to get to it. I got time yet, so I'm getting into it. But, all right, but hey, that's it.
That's it.
Hear that?
Are there any more announcements?
Yes.
Yes, Mama Dona just
Next February, no, this coming February, I think it's the 11th, and we have for Ankh, we are celebrating the Harlem Renaissance as part of saluting Black history. And so we're asking anybody who wants to do a poem or story or something regarding the Harlem Renaissance to let us know so that you can be on the Broadway.
Are we doing it 2 or just 1? February and March?
Right now we're doing one.
Okay.
City 11.
Yeah, February.
February 11th.
Yeah, February 11th.
If you want to do a poem. Yeah.
So it's a poem for February 11th.
It doesn't have to be a poem. It could be anything related to the Harlem Renaissance.
Are there any more announcements?
I don't know how it goes, but am I allowed?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi.
Alright.
Sorry, I got so excited. My name is Tiandra, and I'm excited to be here because I love y'all so much, and I enjoy Kwanzaa so much. Like, my grandmother is very cultural, and I grew up in Wilberforce, Ohio, so it's like super just community. It feels like this all the time, or it did when I grew up, so it felt like home. And so I love y'all, y'all are family. And I work with the incarcerated, and I do a lot of different things, so I'm excited to be of service because I am created to emit light and just be of service. And so I'm just happy to be here, and I can't wait to have electronic forms of all of this stuff so I can share it and spread it, because there's a lot of people, and even though I look young and I am young and I'll be forever young,
That's good.
I'm not necessarily as young as I might look or act or whatever, but the young people think I am. And so then they listen to what I say. So that we want to be included. Young people want to be included. So.
I say that. What happened? What happened?
A musical selection.
Okay, let's go past that.
Or
Move
we
on.
go to praise some more.
Yeah,
We go to praise some
let's
more.
go past that. Move on. We want to get to the message.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Where we going now?
He's just going around though.
To do what?
To come in and read praise some more.
Okay, go through it.
Just trying not to track so much
You know, I
water.
was gonna ask for paper information, but electronic would be good.
Yeah.
Like what Brother done then for the ASCAP fundraiser.
Okay.
Because those of us who may look young, but we're not young,
Oh, I heard that.
may sometimes forget
Okay.
the details.
Look, she's trying to play humble. You see this? You see this? This false humility.
Right.
Come on.
We done forgot already what they said.
Okay, if you would turn to page 3, I want you all, I'm going to read this, but I want you to repeat after me on this, okay? This is the praise of moon. All natures are 3.
All natures are 3.
Amun, Re, and Ptah.
Amun, Re, and Ptah.
They have no companions.
They have no companions.
Concealing its name as a moon,
It
it has Re as a face.
has Re as a face.
Its body is Ptah.
Its body is Ptah.
Their cities of earth are established for perpetuity.
Their cities of earth are established for perpetuity.
Waset, you knew, and the city of the white wall.
Waset, you knew, and the city of the white wall.
For eternity.
For eternity.
A message was sent from the sky.
A message was sent from the sky.
And heard and you knew.
And heard and you knew.
And repeated in the city of the white wall.
And repeated in the city of the white wall.
By beautiful existence.
By beautiful existence.
To be set in official documentation in Jehudi's writing.
To be set in official documentation in Jehudi's writing.
Concerning in the city of Amun.
Concerning in the city of Amun.
Which possessed their property.
Which possessed their property.
The matter was answered in Waset.
The matter was answered in Waset.
A statement was issued.
A statement was issued.
It shall belong to the 9.
It shall belong to the 9.
All that came forth from its Amun's mouth.
All that came forth from its Amun's mouth.
And the netches were established because of it.
And the netches were established because of it.
According to what was decreed.
According to what was decreed.
A message was sent.
A message was sent.
It shall slay and give life.
It shall slay and give life.
And life and death come from it forever.
And life and death come from it forever.
Except the netcher.
Except the netcher.
Amun, plus Re,
Plus Re,
plus Ptah,
plus Ptah.
total 3.
Total 3.
Ashe.
If you look on the back of your program, we have the principles of African spirituality, and we're at number 6. The reestablishment of Kemet, Egyptian liturgical and calendar for spiritual wisdom. And this morning we talked about getting our calendar set for the coming year, getting ready for Kwanzaa for next year. So during the months of January, February, and March, we will start our planning. April, May, and June, we will start our planting. July, August, and September, we will start our watering and making it grow. And then from there on, we'll start harvesting for Kwanzaa for next year. We hope that you join us. We need planners, we need workers. We did really well this year. I mean, really well this year. We had a great time.
We have a wonderful thing today. We have the pleasure of our Sabiet, our message being delivered by Nation Builder
Alright, so I'm always, because y'all know I could just talk and go on and on, but that's freestyle. It's kind of hard being an artist in the way I am and then bringing something across structure. But I felt that when I was invited to do the Sabiet, I wanted to stress the importance of folk tales. Talk about the power of folk tales and how to use them for nation building. Because one of the things that I don't think that we're doing properly is telling our stories. We're allowing other people to dominate us because they control the story-making process. Many of us don't understand the fact that we are surrounded by stories. Stories have conquered the world. I would even argue that story was the first technology
Okay, come on.
that people used to pass down information so that we would not have to repeat the same mistakes.
That's right.
The question I want to leave everybody with tonight or today is, what story are we telling to our children? What story are we telling to our warriors?
Yep.
What story are we telling? Because the story that we're telling will determine where we go.
Uh-oh.
All right, so now, there's two forms of giving people information. All right? You have the basic way that we all learn, we all familiar with, because we've been involved in these imperialistic schools where we learn about the analytical version of giving people information. Where, for example, I would tell a story in an analytical fashion. Back in 1984, I was going to a junior high by the name of Ennis. I went to a center in Akron, Ohio called the Ed Davis Community Center, and I found out they had martial arts. The teacher that was teaching it was a brother by the name of Tony Clark, and Tony Clark became a major person in my life, helped me make it through middle school. And ended up going to jail in probably about 1985. Came out of jail. I never saw him again. He died. Analytical. I gave facts. What I know. But what people need to succeed, what people need is a story. Same story. But rather than use an analytical method, I'm going to use the relational method. Because the relation allows you to engage with the story. Allows you to engage with it. Now, there's 5 parts of the being, the human being, that we have to be able to touch when we're telling our story. We got to touch the intuition. We got to massage the mind. We got to inspire and move the emotions. We got to touch the spirit. And sometimes, if you're good enough, you can move the body. You understand what I'm saying? So now, when we are telling our stories, because I want y'all to think about this. Stories rule the world. Yeah. Right now, we look at the story that's being spun in Christianity. Christianity is a story, whether you want to believe it or not. Islam is a story, whether you want to believe it or not. You know what I'm saying? Judaism is a story. All these things run, and not only run, but shape history. Heru, the story of Heru and Set is a story. And what we got to understand is, by us not understanding the power of stories, we are allowing for our enemies who do understand the power of stories to take over. The one thing that I want everybody to understand is that when the towers crashed, the first thing that they started doing was trying to control the story. When they went after Osama bin Laden, who they said did the towers, the first thing they wanted to destroy was not Osama bin Laden. They didn't care about Osama bin Laden. They wanted to destroy his narrative. Go back and look at it. They didn't want to assassinate him. They wanted to assassinate the narrative. The story that he was leaving. Whenever you want to destroy people, whenever you want to destroy a person, you destroy the story. So now let me tell the same story I just told, but let me use it in a relationship, in a relational fashion. The name of the story is called I Know You. When I was young, I was coming up in a single-parent home, and my mother couldn't afford to give me some of the stuff that I wanted. And one of the things I really wanted was to learn martial arts. I was a Bruce Lee fan like you wouldn't believe. And one day I went to the recreation center and I saw that they had free Taekwondo classes, man, and I was so excited. And I was like, man, when is it? And it was on Tuesdays. I'll give you a push-ups, but it was on Tuesdays. But the day was Monday. I said, dang, Tuesday is 6. So I got on my bike. I rode home. I rode my bike home. I was excited. Matter of fact, I was so excited I got up to the center early. And I started talking to the individuals that was coming in, finding out about the martial arts, who is the teacher, blah, blah, blah. And I found out that they would not let you in the class until the teacher had accepted you personally as a student. Will allow you to get your uniform. So you could get behind them and you could do the little stuff, but until you officially had a uniform, you could not be a part of it. So I stayed in there for months. And I was doing it, I'm trying to show that I'm ready. And one day the master came up to me and he said, at that time they called me OJ. He said, well, what's your name? OJ. He said, OJ, come on, man. He said, I'm going to let you take martial arts with me. Right? I'm going to let you become a student. You can buy your uniform. I was excited. But then he hit me with a bomb. He looked at me and said, I know you. You don't remember me? I'm looking at this dude, and I'm like, I don't know who this nigga is. He's my name. I'm like, oh. You know what I'm saying? So I start running in my mind, going back in my mind, thinking, where did I know this man from? Was he the dude that when we broke into a high school, he was a security guard and he grabbed us and I bit him on the arm? Was he somebody who's a parent of somebody whose bike I stole? Was he somebody who window that I busted? I didn't know where I knew this man from. And I'm looking at him. He had to see the confusion on my face. And he looked at me again. He said, I know you. See, but you don't remember where you know me from, do you? And I couldn't do nothing but say, don't say, he said, it's cool. Don't worry about it. It'll come to you one day. So he allowed me to get my uniform and I started practicing. This man became a teacher. He became my master. Even deeper than that, he became my father because at that time, my father wasn't involved with my life. And this man, he molded me, he shaped me, he allowed me to see where my weaknesses was, and he pulled out my strengths, and he was able to get me to focus on my strengths and start using those. Because he would tell me things like, you might not be the fastest student in the class, but your timing is impeccable. We're going to work on your timing, because your timing will make up for any lack of speed that you have in competition. So he started working me on that, and we would train. I would be dripping with sweat, and he would keep me out of trouble, because during that time I was in middle school. Middle school was hell. Did y'all understand? Middle school was hell, because everybody trying to find out who they are. Right? And everybody's mean. Little kids was mean, man. And my teacher helped guide me through that. Kept me out of trouble. Kept me going to practice 2 and 3 days a week. Kept me involved with tournaments. And like I said, this man, he became my master, my teacher, and my father. And as I made it through middle school, I started playing football again, and I kind of put that on the side burner. And he did something, I can't remember what he did, but he ended up going to jail. And I lost touch, and I got involved with the high school life and stuff like this. And he went to jail, and when he came back out, he was drinking. He had a severe drinking issue. And I never really saw him again, but he would stop over my grandmother's house. My grandma would be like, that old drunk man came. I said, who? One of you teach you martial arts. He'd come over and he'd be talking to my grandma about, I want him to go fight in the tournament for me and blah, blah, blah. And I never took the time to go see this dude. And remember, this dude was like a father to me. But I got too busy. You understand what I'm saying? I got too busy. I was caught up in a high school life, and I turned my back on somebody who may have needed me. I turned my back on somebody who took time with me when nobody else would take time with me. And at that time, it wasn't important. Because I'm like, I got plenty of time, and I just assumed everybody had plenty of time. So I ended up graduating from high school, got a scholarship to Ohio State, went to Ohio State, and I'm sitting up at Ohio State one time, and I talked to somebody from Akron, and I'm sitting up there, and they, boom, we started talking about people, in the comment. They told me that this man had died. And it hit me at that point in time. It's like, I was sad because I wasn't there for somebody who was there for me during a crucial point in my life. And I made it my mission to make it to at least pay respect at his grave. So I missed your funeral and all that. And I'm conflicted by this. So I got a car and I drove down to Akron and I walked up to his gravesite. And I heard his voice. And it wasn't nothing creepy. It wasn't coming from the grave or nothing, but it was in my head. And I went back to the first time that I actually met him. And the words he said to me, I know you. Echoed in my head. And at that point in time, I started laughing because I got the lesson. that was my master's greatest lesson. That was something he left on me. And in that moment, standing over his grave, I remember where I met him. That was it. But stories take analytical information and put it in a fashion where it holds people's attention. And this was a teaching method that we used to make sure that our young people would be able to get information from the culture. Matter of fact, stories are, in a sense, the clothing of the culture. Because through the stories, we get different ways of thinking. There's different lessons that you can pass on. I got some examples of stories that we can use. I'm kind of surprised nobody asked the question that people usually ask on that story.
Where did you
We all wait to get a pause. We'll wait.
Now here you go. That was the secret. And I don't want to ruin it for you because I know each and every last one of you.
Yes.
You might not remember me,
Yes.
but I know you. And that was my master's ultimate lesson, which is, in the African tradition, one of the ways that we make sure people learn. We don't tell you the answer. We allow you to find it for yourself, because where I knew him from might have been different from where y'all know me from. Or it could be the same. But if I was to rob you of the lesson, it wouldn't stick. So by having you going away thinking about it, it's like, boom, we dealt with the intuition, we dealt with the mental, we dealt with the emotion, we dealt with the spiritual, we dealt with the physical. You understand what I'm saying? And this is how we used to teach. This is what went on, I believe, inside of the temple, because we honestly think that school is sitting down and have, but what if how we used to educate our young people was in this fashion? Because storytellers were very important in our culture.
That's right.
Because it shapes the reality. Right? Amos Wilson. I've been on Amos Wilson big.
You know it.
So, even when we look at history, family, history is a story.
Yeah.
History is a story. Now, this is what happened for us. We get caught up in the analytical part of history. We want to be precise with the dates and the times, but we do not get into the soul of history. We don't get into the true power of history because we don't know the stories. We even scared to create some of the stories. Now, stories for young people can set them up for greatness or set them up for failure. Prime example, hold on, let me read what Amos Wilson says here. It's not a game we're playing here. Identity is very important. Identity is based on what? It's a story. Identity. The idea that black people would dare to name themselves. Wait, it is not a game we're playing here. Identity is very important, as is the idea that black people would dare to name themselves. Whites recognize that is an incursion on their power of naming and an incursion on their power of domination. For those that speak the language, that's Kujichagulia. History is what creates a shared identity in a people. It is based on that shared identity they all act collectively. To take away people's history, to degrade their history, is to degrade their sense of shared identity. It's to remove the basis upon which they must behave collectively and reach their goals collectively. That's why the history is rewritten and why people get alarmed about it. History is a story, and once we take control of the story, we take control of our reality. Once we take control of our reality, then bringing these principles into reality is simple. The reason it's hard for us now is because we tell ourselves stories that are not constructive about unity. We tell ourselves stories that are not constructive for Kujichagulia. We tell ourselves stories that are not conductive for Ujima and Ujamaa. We tell ourselves stories that don't work for Imani, that don't work for Nia.
That's right.
And because we got these stories out here in front of us and echoing in our mind, because we got to understand these stories play out in our heads. Like, for example, Hannibal. What was Hannibal's father's name? Hamilcar? Hannibal was taken to the beach at a certain point in his life, and his father said, "You see out there across the ocean. You might not be able to see it, but right there's our enemies. And they're striving to take everything we have. And it is your responsibility to make sure that they don't. And it's that story that his father, when his father took him out there, the memory of that story is what echoed through Hannibal's whole life. And it shaped who he became. We have to understand that stories have always played an important factor for us. And we, as a community, have to start shaping the story. And I'm going to ask you a question. What story is out there about us here in Columbus? What is the legend or the idea that people have about us? And how can we change that? I'm going to show you how prevalent stories are, because a lot of us, we don't even understand how stories are everywhere. My son loves video games. Video games are based on what? Stories. How many of y'all like movies?
Yeah.
Yep.
Movies are based on what?
Story.
How about some of your favorite songs? How many of y'all like music?
Yeah.
What is music based on?
Story.
Anybody got a Facebook page?
Yeah.
What is Facebook about?
Story.
Telling your story. What about Instagram? What about Twitter? Stories are all around us. And like I said, story is the first technology. And when you take over stories, you shape the future destiny of your people. Now, our ancestors used to use stories to get us to discuss, to get us to learn about the principles, and get us to learn about the morals and the do's and the don'ts. Family, where are the stories? Where are our stories? What do we use? When an individual comes through our rites of passage, what stories are we leaving them about what we can do and what we can't do, and the results of if we break that? What is the story? Because once we are able to start telling the young people the story, we shape how they interact with Kwanzaa. We shape how they interact with each other. We shape everything. And once we start living these stories, family, you think they came after Malcolm X? If you think they came after them, wait till we start using Coochie Chagalia. We start shaping the stories in our children's minds. Because listen, I could talk all the historical facts I want, but if it don't move the kids, it don't mean nothing. It don't mean nothing. That's right. So we have to find ways to do it. And not only does it move the kids, it moves us. Normal had a way of bringing history to life. Yeah. And then shock you every now and then with a cuss word. Yeah. That's what
not every now and then. All the time.
All the time. Here is an example from Aesop Fables of a story that teaches about morals. And what happens when somebody's not paying attention to shaping the future. It's called The Thief and His Mother. A boy stole a lesson book from one of his schoolfellows and took it home to his mother. She not only abstained from beating him, but encouraged him. He next time stole a cloak and brought it to her, and she again commended him. The youth advanced to adulthood, proceeded to steal things of still greater value. At last, he was caught in the very act, and having his hands bound behind him, was led away to the place of public execution. His mother followed the crowd, violently beating her breast in sorrow, whereupon the young man said, I wish to say something to my mother in her ear. She came close to him, and he quickly seized her ear with his teeth and bit her off. The mother upbraided him as an unnatural child, whereon he replied, if you had beaten me when I first stole and brought to you that lesson book, I should not have come to this, nor have been thus led to a disgraceful death. Now, when I first got back into this book, because I got into this book reluctantly, because I said, folk tales are for kids, fables are for kids, stories are for kids, but family, when you start looking at the history of Aesop Fables, you understand that Aesop Fables were used in these so-called temples and these mystery systems and these colleges to educate individuals and teach them how to govern. Teach them about rhetoric. Teach them about argument. Teach them, because think about it. Think about the conversation. Why did the boy fight off the mother's ear? Anybody? Why? Why did he buy her mother? Why? Was he wrong?
No.
No.
She let him.
Right.
She let him. He felt that he could. That respect wasn't already there.
It
That
wasn't?
honor of the mother wasn't already there.
She will forever have that shame for having no ear, being bitten off by her son, as he had that shame of dying that death.
I go with what she said. She invited it because she never stopped him in the first place. But it was wrong, but she invited it. She never stopped him from bad actions in the first place.
Okay.
She should have stopped him the first time he brought something home, and she didn't approve of it. She should have stopped him right then and there.
Go ahead.
We all have a spirit that comes to tell you before you get to hit the lick, you know you shouldn't do that. And that spirit came to her through her ear, and she heard it. And so that was the spirituality of him biting off the ear, because she knew, she heard the spirit that told her when she was punished for stealing or whatever she did wrong. You understand? And that's why you better hear him.
I think that he felt that at that time that was the only way he could get her attention, and she would listen to what he had to say.
So many times we as parents lose ourselves in our children, and we start to almost serve our children like they're a master, like they're our greatest creation. We lose who we are and our purpose. And so rather than disciplining them and just keeping that separation, like I'm my own being and I'm not losing myself in you, she served him in that way.
See, stories raise conversation. This is a story that toys with our morals. Cause I could come back and be like, well, he was wrong because he made the choice, so why are you gonna make his mom suffer? But would I be wrong in that point?
No, you wouldn't.
But if you wanted to blame the mother, you could be right too. But it raises what?
Conversation.
Raises conversation, right? Now, let me
Is
get
that how they had stories to use in scripture, so a person goes the way that a person goes. You understand? It's our job to make sure that they don't go that way. They use that in the Bible, those techniques, and that's through the fables. Because John Henry Clark, as you know, he told us that the Bible's basically read off of fables. You understand?
right. And those fables are supposed to raise conversations,
That's
but
right.
because when we start placing the stories above us, right, we lose connection. Now it's sort of an analytical piece where I look at the story and it's so sacred that I can't dare discuss it. Jesus taught with parables. What is parables?
That's right. That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So now this caused a discussion because this is where real learning takes place, where we develop the relationship. But analytical, if I just came out and I just gave you the facts and left it at that, there's no need to have discussion, is there? There's no need to discuss any of it. It's just a fact.
Brother ha2tim,
Go
can I
ahead.
say something?
Go ahead.
The Bible, I feel like people, again, serve it rather than the spirit of what it was supposed to be created in. And they feel like those people are special or above them. And so they're trying to emulate somebody else, but you have your own story, your own purpose. And rather than looking at it like, oh, he just used any other, that's just anybody. And so I could be that person too. Just people get lost in trying to be like Mary and trying to be like whatever rather than just looking within and being.
So,
It's interesting why you chose that story.
Go ahead.
Because I didn't see father in it.
Now,
Now we're talking.
see, that's a whole nother point of discussion.
Right.
Absolutely.
Where we at today. And I just want to say, just like as she was saying, you know, most of the people that they talked about in that scripture, their Bible, they couldn't even read, so they had to keep transmitting stories. So if it takes this, that's why I got it, so it crashes out. If it takes a book to get you closer to your God, then you already, Amos said, you already lost. So, you know, how can you even use a book? Because most of the people in the book didn't read. So, you know, and just like Elder Tony said that where's the dads at? What situation are we in today? Right today.
That story 2,000 years old, so what we're going through is nothing new.
There's nothing new.
It's nothing new. We've been here before.
It's
We've been here before. Life is a cycle that goes round and round, but to the laws of my eye, I'm bound. We have to understand that where we already been here, family. This is a repeat. We on a repeat. We are in a generational warfare, and until we start catching it and being able to pass on our stories to the next generation, we're gonna keep on making the same mistakes.
That's right.
That's what stories do. Story is a technology. They call it a meme. It's an idea that can be spread through people and be transmitted across time. So it's not really, what's the story we tell? You know what I'm saying? Amos Wilson, back to my man Amos Wilson.
Here we go.
What is culture? Culture is not merely a knowledge of song and dance.
That's right.
The way we dress and behave, that's very superficial. Culture is a way of thinking. It is an intellectual system. It's a system of self-control. It is the psychic system which subjects impulses and stuff to examination and subjects impulses and desires to evaluation in terms of long-term goals. You say, I would like this, but in terms of where I want to go, I won't indulge myself at this time. Let me delay gratification. But people without culture, people whose very self-definition is not in line with long-term social goals and transcendent values, are people who have no reason not to take a drug. They can't give themselves a reason. Well, why not? What have I got to lose? He can't give himself a reason, but culture gives him a reason. It gives him a long-term goal, and it gives him a comparative system. This is not compatible with where I want to go. This is going to take me off my path. I will lose my honor and so forth if I go this way. Now I'm going to read a little bit more. This is not compatible with the survival of my people. This is not compatible with taking care of my family. This is not compatible with for producing for my group and so forth. I want to real bad, but I'm going to forsake it. How do you do that? You train the young boys and the young ladies to resist. I added the ladies to resist temptation.
Thank you.
To resist temptation. You train him to master his impulses. You train him to make him know that being a man is the mastery over impulse. You do not let him know it is the mastery of impulses and spontaneous, You not only let him know it is the mastery of impulses and spontaneous erratic behavior, but a mastery of knowledge as well. A mastery of systems. And stories can help shape the mind. It can help shape that because it gives our young people something to hold on to, and it gives us something to hold on to. Right? Most of us are living out stories. Now, this is what's even crazier. Most of us are living out stories. Most of us are living out stories consciously or unconsciously. Some of us are living out our parents' stories. Some of us are living out the stories that other people gave us. The only thing I want to challenge you to do is to start living the story that you want. As a people, we are unconsciously following the story that has been laid out for us. And in doing that, we're losing. We're losing. When we take back our story, we take back our power. For example, a story that helps. Stories help us learn how to think. Like he said, helps us learn how to think. Help us learn the reason. Let's go to one. Let me see. This one right here. Y'all ready?
Ready.
I'm old. I'm about to get my glasses out. I got my glasses out.
You're over there, right there in the middle. You put them in the middle.
Behind that.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see somebody else do that. I'm looking for my glasses.
The name of the story is Who Should He Kill? Critical question. Because for the culture, we may need to decide on who we're going to kill. I mean, really, as black folks, if we're going to be serious about it, right? Some of us and some of the enemy is going to have to lay it down. That's what we call it, right? That's the fact. fact of life. That's what cultures do. Right now, you got a group of white men deciding on who's going to live and who's going to die. Some of us have to be bold enough to step up to this. Now, let's ask this question.
Come on.
Who should he kill? Now check out the
Oh,
story.
look out now.
There was once a man who did no other job but digging out pesky ground squirrels. Taking his son to work with him one day, he said, "You stop up the back entrance and I'll dig." But when the father set about digging in the ground squirrel hole, the ground squirrel came out where the son was and made off. Then the father hit the son, and with the handle of his hoe, he knocked him senseless. A little later in the evening, up came a king, or let's say a chief, taking a stroll. I don't like this version. And he saw the son of the squirrel digger, who was just coming to his senses. Now this chief had never had any children, so he picked up the boy and took him home. His nose was dirty and full of ants. The air wiped them away. And, my fault, the chief, I hate them. I ain't gonna say hate, but you know what I'm saying. Wiped away and had him bathed in hot water. When the boy recovered completely, the chief dressed him in a black and white gown, embroidered trousers, and a heavily indigo gown as well, with a turban 20 cubits long and 20 stripes wide. Now in this area, the rich merchant's son used to ride and compete at the racetrack. The chief brought out a saddle ornamented in gold and silver, with brass stirrups from Tripoli, and all the other trappings for a horse. Then he told the boy to mount up and said to him, "When you get back to the track, whatever you see the other riders do, you do it too." So the boy joined the rich merchant's sons and went along with them. Some great arguments arose among the people over whose son he was, but no one knew the truth. When the merchant's son got home, each one said to his father, "Where's the chief who has a son who has more finery than we have?" And their fathers answered, "No, it's not really his son. That's false." But they added all the same, "We will test him. Tomorrow when you go riding with him, let each one give away his horse and equipment before he comes. Then we'll see, for generosity is the way to demonstrate true wealth." So the sons went out the next day, and afterwards they gave away their horses. And watching carefully, the heir boy too gave away his horse. After this, the merchant gave his sons other horses, each worth 1,000,000 cowries, and told them, "When you go riding, before you come home, cut down your horses." And the chief's boy was given a horse worth 10,000,000. When they had their gallop, each one took his sword and cut down his horse. Then the chief's boy, without even troubling to take the saddle off, cut down his horse and went off home. And they said, "Did you see? He cut down his horse." And again, the chief boy didn't even take off the horse's equipment. He left it there. Then the people said, "So it seems he is his son after all." Time passed, and a festival was at hand. In the morning, the usual mounted procession took place in all the town. There wasn't a youth whose horse was fitted out to touch the chief's son. And as they were coming back from the temple, they passed among the common people who had come from the country into the town for prayers. Well, it happened that the squirrel digger, the real father of the boy, had come to town for the festival, and he had joined the crowd. When he saw his son, he exclaimed, "Hey, get down from that horse. You know it's not your own father's, you rascal. Look at your brothers there. One of them has killed 9 ground squirrels, one of them 10, and you here are you in disposition and idleness." And the chief said to him, please, keep to yourself. Here, take your son." And in the evening, the chief chose 2 horses and saddled them up, picked out 2 gowns, a black one and a white one, and gave them to the boy's father. And the chief gave him 20,000 cowrie shells and provisions for his journey. Then all 3 mounted up and rode out. They left the town and came into the bush. Suddenly, the chief produced a sword and gave it to the boy, saying, "Now, either me or your father cut down one of them." Now that's the question. Which one should he kill? Because the chief would not go back to town and be ashamed or made shame that he didn't have a son, because this is issue, you know, back in those days, it was
Right.
supposed to have something passed down.
Right.
He chose this boy. He gave this boy all of the finery he could. And he gave him the choice. Now this boy, now what do we know about this boy? What do we know about the boy?
He was knocked unconscious.
He was knocked unconscious by who?
His real father.
His real father. Knocked him unconscious because he could not stop a ground rat. Because that's really what it is. A squirrel, those that don't know, a squirrel is nothing but a tree rat. So you just so that you can be clear about it. So you got tree rats, you got ground rats. Right? This boy couldn't do it. This is the livelihood that they have. He got knocked unconscious by his father. His father left him there for dead. The chief came by. He saw him. He picked him up. He liked how he looked. He took him home. He cleaned him up. He gave him all the finery. He allowed him to experience a whole nother side of life. And now, in the other part, in the more African-centered part of the story, the chief's son was going to marry another chief's son, another chief's daughter. And the whole town had found out that this boy was this man's long-lost son. And everybody was looking at it, so he ain't want to feel shame. So he gave this boy an opportunity. He said, listen, if you go with your father, you have to slay me. If you stay with me, you have to kill your father. The question is, which one should he kill?
Well, the father left him for dead. The father left him for dead. His biological father left him for dead.
So you think he should kill the father?
If it were me, I would.
You would kill the father. No, see, now, go ahead, now, because I want you to understand. This is how we learn.
That's right.
This is a moral question. Why? Because I understand that the father left him for dead, but we talk about ancestors all the time. For him to step to that chief would be him forsaking all of his forefathers before that.
So he kills himself.
Now, that's a whole option. That's not, that wasn't even put on the table. She said, so he kills himself. Oh, but when you said when he kills his father, he kills himself.
No, he just kills
No,
himself.
she
Oh,
He
she
kills them
didn't
both
kill
of
him.
them.
They both get to live. She said they both get to live. If it were me,
He
I
might
would.
not be that. He might not be that advanced. Go ahead.
We get super tied down in our earthly and worldly parents as opposed to having spiritual parents and spiritual guidance.
Right.
His father was so focused on his purpose that he was enforcing his purpose on all his children rather than seeing the greatness that this kid had. Even if you don't have your talent in getting rats or whatever, but you have your talent in something else, I need you to be able to see my greatness in me rather than reprimanding me for not getting what you're good at. But saying, you know what, you tried this, you gave it an honest shot as long as he did. Let's figure out what your talent is. So I would kill the blood father too.
You would kill the blood father.
And he left him for dead. Don't forget.
He left him. Yeah, he knocked him because in the more African story, he beats him and he thinks that he's dead. You know what I'm saying? So now, brings up the question once again, which one would you slay? Now, this is a moral dilemma, and oftentimes when we tell stories, we'll leave moral dilemmas so that we can have a conversation. See, because this is a definition that people usually don't use. A definition for spirituality is the building and maintenance of relationships. You want to see how spiritual somebody is? Look around them and see what type of relationships they have with everybody and everything around them.
That's right.
See, because we got a lot of spiritual people that don't have no friends, but I got the question, how the hell can you be spiritual if you don't have no relationship? Because it's not prayer, maintenance of a relationship. It's the maintenance of a relationship between you and something higher. So if I'm practicing improving a relationship with something up here or wherever it is, in here or wherever, should not be harnessing that and using it for the people around me. We got a bunch of spiritual people that are away from their family.
Come on.
You know what I'm saying? Because I know for a fact that it don't matter what spiritual belief you have, because my grandmother was very Christian. Well, I was able to talk to her in a way where she was like, all right, cool, you know, I ain't trying to change you, you ain't trying to change me. When you come to Thanksgiving dinner, I'm going to make sure you got your own pot of room. Relationship. Right? So when we get to stories throw up issues where individuals get to debate and get to talk. Now I want you to imagine this room full of young people with different feelings, and some of them might have been experiencing one. I mean, think about this. You sitting in the classroom, you having this discussion, and you might have got beat by your father last night.
That's right.
Kill the father. But then you got the other people like, hey, for me and my family, the bloodline is all important. In a sense, when I kill my father, my birth father, I'm actually killing me. You understand? Because, so now that whole discussion will be there on the floor and people will be able to have it and grow. Become smarter. You get to know. It causes discussion and allows you to get to know how people think. Right? A lot of times, see, in our collective, a lot of times we know what people know. We don't really know them and what's important to them. How am I going to go to war with you if I don't know what's important? You understand what I'm saying? And you know what I'm saying? If money is important to you, and we're about to go to war, I know I got to watch my back with you because you can be bought off.
Right.
But the only way I get to that is through discussion, and what these stories do, they allow us to have discussion. So, how do we use these stories as far as nation building, family? First off, we got to stop being scared and be bold enough to start putting our stories down. We got to start creating our own folk tales. We got to start creating our own myths and our own legends. It's good to hold on to what we had in the past. But family, we are living in a whole new time and a whole new environment. This is why a Nazi was transformed into Brer Rabbit.
Say that again,
Now,
please.
this is why a Nazi transformed into Brer Rabbit.
Oh, okay.
Or Legba was transferred into Brer Rabbit. Why? Because the environment was different. Now we're living in a different time and a different environment. Who is a Legba or Brer Rabbit going to turn in today?
That's right. And it's there.
Which of us is going to be bold enough to do it? See, because now, this is my question. What is the story? What is the myth behind Tawhid? About the coming together of Tawhid. About the coming together of this village. Because if we don't have it as a foundation, why should they be attracted? The story got to appeal to them. What hardship did we go through to set this up? And then on top of this, to pass down our own legacy, because through our family, we have to be able to shape the stories so that we can pass it down through the legacy. How are you going to tell the stories? Because the story I told you about my teacher at the beginning is not exactly how it happened. I embellished. I embellished it. I added it. I made it sound better. I made it sound deeper. But when my son gets to a point where he's born libations for Tony Clark, he's going to look at Tony Clark totally different than I look at Tony Clark when I knew Tony Clark, because he only knows Tony Clark through me. Exactly.
That's right.
Tony Clark is a legend to him.
Yes.
Right.
How many of us are going to become legends? How many of us have legendary people in our family that we never tell a story about? So that you can inspire your kids. You know what I'm saying? Oh, shit, your grandfather did such. Boom. And now, and this is what stories do. It set a standard, and people strive to go beyond. Going to ancient history, it was a dude by the name Alexander the Macedonian. He wasn't a Greek. You know, they called him Alexander the Great. He was inspired by a story about Achilles and Hercules. And he was determined to be better than both of them. Those are historical, those were legends within his community, and he decided in his mind, I'm going to do better than them. What legends are we putting before them? What legends are we putting before ourselves? You know? Last story, and then I'm gonna shut it out. We got time for one more story?
Yeah.
Are you going to embellish?
Usually if I'm not having the book, I could do a little bit freer, but the story of the four fools. There's four. But this is another discussion. One day, a wizard met a boy who was sitting by the roadside, upset and weeping bitter tears. He asked the reason for his tears, and the boy said, my father's parrot has flown away. If you can find it, I will give you a reward. The wizard summoned a hunter, a carpenter, and a thief. He told them about the lost parrot and also about the reward for its return. They all agreed to do their best to find the parrot. Before we start, let's each demonstrate our special skills. One of the four said, for the thief, I want you to go and steal an egg from the hen over there without letting the hen know what you have done. The thief went and stole the egg, and the hen did not move at all. The hunter hung the egg up as a target, walked a good distance away from it, and proved his skill by hitting the egg. Then the carpenter showed what he could do by putting the egg back together. Again, they turned to the wizard, who could see that each had a special talent. The wizard decided that it was time to find the parrot, and he invited the four others to board his glass ship. See that vessel over there, he asked? The parrot was stolen by the men on that vessel. The four in the glass boat caught up with the vessel and the thief boarded. He caught the parrot, and then he set the table set down for a good meal before returning to the glass ship with the parrot. When the men who had stolen the parrot from the king's son discovered that it was gone, they gave chase to the glass boat. The captain of the vessel summoned a storm and sent rain down on the glass boat, which shattered. But the carpenter mended it, and the hunter fired away at the rain until it stopped. The captain of the vessel sent down lightning, and it shattered the glass ship again, but the carpenter just mended it again, and the hunter shot at the lightning until it stopped. Eventually, the four men reached the land and took the parrot to the chief's son and said, here is your father's parrot. The boy was overjoyed to have the parrot back, and he told the four to choose whatever they wanted from his possession. They could even ask for a wonderful hen that laid jewels, or anything else you might want. They chose the hen and went on their way. But they had not gone very far before the wizard said, the hen belongs to me, because I told you about the parrot and where it was. The thief then said, no, the hen is mine, for I stole the parrot from the vessel. The carpenter then staked his claim, for he had twice mended the ship in which they were sailing. Then the hunter said, it really belongs to me, for I shot at the rain and the lightning. They argued for a long time and exchanged angry words. Since they could not reach an agreement, they finally did something wildly stupid. They killed the wonderful hen and divided it into 4 pieces, with each man taking his share. Now, which of these 4 foods should have been given the hen in the first place? Wow. Question. Who should have got it? We have a wizard, we have a carpenter, we have a thief, and we have a hunter. Go ahead.
The hen is its own person, its own entity. Just because it has something to offer doesn't mean that anybody can stake claim over who the hen is in itself.
But the hen was a reward that was given to them. So the hen, I mean, listen, the hen was given to them. So, I mean,
but it can be given to you in not a physical, possessive way. If something is given to you and you find value of it in it, you should allow it to be free and flourish and do whatever it needs to do without having to stake claim and cage it. That's caging a bird.
Well, I can dig it. But during this time, but it's part of the story. During that time, birds were caged. You know what I'm saying? So the hen would have had to go home with one of them because they all wasn't sharing the house. So in order for me to allow the hen to roam free and lay these jewels, you know what I'm saying?
Season. Just rotate seasons.
Okay, so you saying you coming up with a why? All right, so you saying all 4 of them they should have found a way to cooperate, but they didn't. Right. But they didn't. If you had to choose, because now a lot of times what we do, because this is what we do a lot of times, we eliminate the choices. The idea is to find your point and argue. Who you think should have got it? Well, think about it. Because the issue is that to find a point, because sometimes, even with us debating and us talking, we have to take a stand. Sometimes, even with something that I don't agree. As a matter of fact, one of the techniques used in teaching people how to debate is to give them something they don't believe in and say, go and find the evidence so that you can stand on the point and you can discuss it. Now, this is something for young people as well as older people to we can start having these debates and we can start having these talks. And it structures you and teaches you how to think. It teaches you how to use the analytical information to form the stories so that you can win arguments. So I'm gonna say, I'm gonna pick, for me, I think the Wizards should get the chicken. I think the Wizards should get the chicken. Go ahead.
I think they should have battled for it. I kind of agree. Should have said the hen is its own entity. It shouldn't have been divided up or nothing. They should have, if anything, they should have fought for whoever came out with the most talent, power, the wizard, the hunter, whoever. So I kind of like look at it as like you self-sabotage. Like I'm looking at it and I'm kind of letting into my own like elements within my own self. I got a wizard, I got a hunter aspect of myself. I have these elements within my own self, so I look at these talents I may have in myself, and I may see a goal or a reward on this end, the hen that can later go, that can make everything right, that I need to go the way I need to go. But sometimes, you know, I may do something stupid, like, why would I destroy the hen? That's what I'm trying to realize. That's what I'm trying to realize. So, whoever is the most dominant within my own psyche, if it's the wizard, if it's the hunter, should handle that situation.
So which one you pick right now? If you got to make a stand right now, everybody got to make a stand.
Right now, the wizard is communicating the effectiveness of the value. So I think the wizard, I agree with you in that regard.
Okay.
The wizard.
That's the person that could put them back together. Whoever can assemble that egg, because he can design that egg or whatever to put it back together. So if it's broke again, the wizard, he gave him this, but he still couldn't put the egg back together. We don't know if he could. You understand? But he gave him the hint, and he stole the egg, and the egg was used as a target. Whoever reconstructs that egg can reconstruct it to the way.
So you saying the carpenter should get it? Okay. Anybody else? Come on now, take a stand. And why? And why? Let's limit the field. We don't have all these outside options. We got the wizard, the carpenter, the hunter, and who? The thief. Go ahead, Kwame.
My answer is the wizard. When I consider this in terms of how we in this room find ourselves today, I think one of the undercurrents that Brother ha2tim is referring to is that with the information given, we make a decision. Not add any, other elements to it, but make a decision upon the information you're given. And so I would strongly encourage us, if nothing more than an element of exercise for us, to make decisions, stand on that. I'll shut up in a minute. So start counting. Our virtues tell us that have faith in your teacher to teach you the truth. Have faith in your ability to assimilate that truth. Then have faith in your ability to wield that truth. And then in another thing, I think it's the I am a genius pledge, we're told, try to make all your decisions that are in the best interest of yourself, your family, your people, and if you call God or what have you, then that too. And so, again, I'll say the wizard. I stand on that because I believe the wizard probably has the most holistic understanding of them all. And so that's why I stand on that.
I say the thief.
Thank God, because if everybody else said wizard, I was about to say the carpenter. Because the point is, this is the issue. Because like you said,
can I tell you why?
Go ahead. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Handle your business. I'm sorry.
I say the thief because he is, to me, the less fortunate of the hunter, the carpenter, and the wizard.
So he needs it more than anybody else?
Yes, that's what I think.
But what if he's stealing because he wants to steal? He's a rich thief. He just, that's what I do. That's what I master. I'm able to do it.
We don't know that.
Well, you're right. There wasn't
story.
information that wasn't given.
That's right.
See now, and this type of discussion is important in government. And if we talk about governing, like one of the reasons I came back to Tawi, because I honestly felt that there's a governmental structure here.
Never left.
So we could build on. I never left. Right. But coming back in the way that I'm coming back, because there's a governmental structure here. And we got to be able to teach ourselves and teach our young people how to govern. Sometimes that means I'm going to have to make a decision. There is no halfway decision. There is no halfway. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know what I'm saying? Either this group is going to eat or this group is going to eat. We got a choice. Now, we can't split the food. We're not going to split the food. This group got to eat or this group got to eat. Very simple. And we got to understand that people make these type of decisions on us all the time. So they get their young people prepared to make these decisions. And I'm going to roll with the moral complications. You know, how I feel. Because some of us been in a situation where people had to make decisions about our jobs, our very livelihood. Yeah. And it didn't even bother them. Right. There ain't no halfways. You know what I'm saying? So boom, with the information that's given to you, because I'm going to close out, with the information given to you, who deserves the hen? Because we do understand why it was foolish to kill a hen. And y'all do know that this motif for this story was stolen and used in another culture's canon of stories. The hen that laid the goat egg. Right? That's right.
Or Humpty Dumpty.
Humpty Dumpty. That's right.
You know Humpty Dumpty, right?
Yep.
So come on now. Everybody, so we got the thief, we got the magician. I didn't hear the carpenter because the carpenter. You said the carpenter. Cool.
I said the hunter.
Oh,
Given that I have to make.
I'm sorry.
My bad. Go ahead.
No, I didn't hear the story. Go ahead.
I said if I have to make a decision, and that's fine, I can do that. I say the hunter because thinking about what thieves and everybody do, like we can all master all these skills, like we have the ability within us. But hunter usually takes a lot of time to develop that skill set, and he's so observant as a hunter that he picked up on he is a thief. Like hunter, he's taken somebody's life, so he's already a thief. Like he has the other skill sets within him to be able to accomplish it, and you got to get somebody else. And the hen is not an anomaly. The hen probably came from parents or a lineage of other hens that lay jewels, and so he just needs to get another one.
I was going to say everybody but the hunter, because he's a destroyer. He destroys anything that he comes in contact with.
But it's because the hunter would destroy that we survive as a people.
Yeah, that's true. But you don't have to be a meat eater. You can eat plants, fruits, vegetables, beans. You don't have to eat meat.
I will agree, but then also I'm going to turn it back on you because we come from meeting people. You know that, right? I mean, you hear it.
It was a variation of eating meat and also fruits and vegetables. Because that's where we got our energy and things from.
Yeah, but we also got something from these animals because we domesticated animals first.
That's right.
We were master hunters, right? As well as master warriors. So, because it's like, because one of the pieces we got to look at really the story that we tell ourselves about our history, because they weren't vegetarians back in Kenya.
Yeah, I know they weren't full vegetarians. Right. They only ate meats when their crop didn't come in.
But they didn't.
They
didn't eat certain periods of time. They ate certain periods of time. They meditated.
But you say everybody but the hunter. So if you had to choose one, the hunter is eliminated. Which one you choose?
Flip a coin with either one.
A three-sided coin? Anybody have a three-sided coin? Go ahead.
No, but cast the lots the same.
It's four-sided. It's the wizard, the carpenter.
No, he eliminated. Oh yeah, you're right. It's four left.
No, it's not.
Okay.
So it's the wizard, the carpenter, and the thief.
Who you gonna pick, doctor?
No. I mean, again, I think that's the conversation came to what I was thinking. I mean, it's a three-sided coin. All of them have the skills, depending on where you at.
So you're saying cast lots?
I don't think the carpenter
You have interjected.
Because number one, the wizard, we have wizards right now have our children in illusion. You understand what I'm saying? So I would kill the wizard right off the top.
We're not talking about killing them.
That's why he's like, I'm gonna. You got one that got rid of the hunter. He like the hunter is a destroyer. He like, hey, I'm gonna kill the wizard. So that leaves two now. We got, but the
point is, I can put it back together, so I don't need
Brother ha2tim.
Yes, sir.
He hasn't read the Tolkien series, man.
You know what's
He
going
doesn't
on.
know about Gandalf, man. So, what do you say?
But I want to thank y'all for, now, before I go, are there any questions? Because we have a serious task. Because now, one of the things I want to pass out
Take him out.
is
No more.
I want to, I have what I developed for a book that I wrote called The Story Builder's Think Sheet. Because one of the key pieces I want everybody to understand about these stories is that when you're listening to a story, you are all the characters.
Yep.
All the characters represent an aspect of you. Somebody said that, right? I feel like the wizard, right here, this book right here. I feel like I'm the wizard. I feel like the hunter. All these stories are about us. When you're reading about Haru, you're reading about you. When you're reading about, and unpleasant, when you're reading about sex, that's what you're reading about. You know what I'm saying? When you're reading in the Bible, those stories are about you. So how do we start breaking down these stories so that we can get the lessons? Because another thing that the stories do, they allow us to pass on information so our younger people, so our next generation do not have to bump their head in the same way that we do.
Right.
Brother ha2tim,
Go ahead.
that takes me to the point that I was thinking of from the story of which man do you kill, which father do you kill, and I heard someone say a couple people say the blood father, and I heard you say that would mean you would be killing the son would be killing himself. The son would be killing himself essentially if he killed his blood father. And my thought was, if we are all one, which we are all one, not just from who we were born from, but as humans and spiritual beings, then he would, whichever father he killed, he would be killing himself.
There you go.
Yeah.
See, and that's the dilemma. That's the decision. See, because the piece is, we as a people have to learn to make decisions. We got enemies and we got friends. And we have to be able to decide and be clear on that. See, we have been allowed to be in this place. We're able to be duplicitous. We're able to, either, you know what I'm saying, even either or no more. It's like it's both and.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And you can't go to war with both things. Either you my damn enemy and I'm coming to slay you, or I'm not coming to hurt you, I'm coming to kill you.
But see, that's their weapon too. That's their weapon, is that double consciousness.
There you
because
go.
we've been made to, we have to be on time and follow that calendar that's not ours, and it's not how we communicate. And we have to speak a certain way, and we can't talk in ebonics or whatever because that's not as intelligent, because it's not their way and they don't understand it. It's that double-minded that's just the weapon of the world, because that makes us be like, because we have to do that every day in this world, or so we think we do.
So, accepting spaces like this, and what we have to try to do is tell a story, because the story will expand this space to where it not only happens on the Sunday, but it might happen on every other Monday, and then it builds up into every other Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and it builds up like Kwanzaa. I came down off of Kwanzaa high. I was high all Kwanzaa. I was high.
You're not off it yet.
Still a little bit, but I slept. I came down like I was sobering up afterwards, and then I woke up after Kwanzaa was over. It was like, damn, I gotta go back to work.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's back to the normal shit.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And it's like, boom, we have to tell the story so that we can expand that space, because there's no reason why we can't feel that good all the time.
And you're carrying that over from that time. That's still with you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, sir. But my aspect is, it's beautiful in here, but it's more beautiful around here.
Yeah, right. That's the
You understand what I'm saying? Because that's what we need. That's what we have to do. That's what we have to learn how to do. So next week, not next week, but when we come back for the divine conversation, I'm going to challenge people to come back with a story.
Yeah.
Find you a folktale, find you a story, or even tell one of your own personal stories.
Come on with it.
And I want us to take the story builder sheet, and we're going to use it, and we're going to start breaking down stories so that we can start understanding the power of, because stories are nothing but symbols in motion. That's it. That's true hieroglyphs. We think that the hieroglyphs is on the wall, but the hieroglyphs are not on the wall. The hieroglyphs is in our soul. The hieroglyphs is in our DNA. We are the hieroglyphs, and we just learn how to tell those stories. It will change the very fabric of everything that we in. So I guess I went over.
No, you're not over.
All right.
You're good.
You're good.
So I want to say thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Peace out.
Divine Conversations on the 28th. We're bringing our stories on the 28th. Again, thank you. Let's have another round.
Is he passing the
Oh.
sheet around?
I keep them unless y'all want some now. 'Cause I can
Yeah,
put
we
some
want
juice.
some now. They want to get it while it's good. And Brother ha2tim.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
No
And
problem.
notice
Thank
one
you,
thing
brother.
that you left out doing decision making.
Oh man, I gotta work on that myself.
The 28th is the same time frame.
Oh, Ella Phillips.
Before I take up collection,
You doing what?
take up the collection.
Okay.
I did a summary of nation building
ha2tim.
Soviet. Stories, what do they mean? They do mean a lot of things, it seems. We must train our youth to resist temptation, but understand determination, aspiration, and dedication. Start learning the stories that we want, not the stories that is laid out for us, full of mistrust, injustice, and all of that is just a bust, and really, it ain't for us. Y'all, we gotta get some stories to tell, and we must do that without fail. Whether we embellish or not, the stories must be told, and told a lot.
That's right.
Life is a cycle that goes round and round. We should all be bound to Mount I.
And you did that right then and there?
Yeah.
She's a wordsmith.
She does it like that.
I used to do it all the time. But
Oh, okay.
I really can't really get into it. Trying to write all kinds of stuff.
Right.
So anyhow, as you all know, we're a 501c3, so your donations are tax deductible. The funds that we collect allow us to do the programming that we do throughout the year. So we ask you to give from your heart. However,
I can change on this story. How you go, how you pay?
Wow.
Yes, sir, man. Oh, that's what it is. All right.
Yeah, there you go. I appreciate it. There you go.
Oh, thank you for that. You have another? I need to.
Yeah, you can have all of them.
Thank you.
You can have all of them. I don't know no stuff.
You get one for me, honey.
Yeah, you do.
You told me your story.
Yes, I do.
Huh? I got one.